Guys, I'll be talking about frameworks in assessment. So frameworks in assessment na, when I say framework, kumbaga parang basis siya as to how to do assessment. And you would notice that the reference text that we have actually discussed two ways, no? Two ways to view the frameworks in assessment. But actually there's a lot of them. But let's focus on these two. So plus you have your CTT or your true score theory. Plus your CTT is also referred to as your classical test theory. What do we mean by classical test theory, class? It tells us that the variation in the performance of the examinees on a given measure is really due to the variation in their abilities. What do we mean by that? No? Notice that I've highlighted variation in their abilities. So if you are subscribing to the CTT model or your true score theory, it means, class, that if student A score is 10, student score B is 5, it means that there is really a difference in the ability of student A and student B. Okay, in your examinations, for example, in mathematics. And that is how it's explained by classical test theory. Plus, according to this theory, it assumes that an examinee's observed score in each measure is the sum of, number one, the examinee's true score. And then the second one, class, is some degree of error in the measurement caused by some internal and external conditions. Okay? Now, look at that. Plus, your CTT acknowledges that there could be some error in the measurement that we are having. Okay? So for example, if you saw, for example, that this child is performing well in mathematics, when you are doing the discussion on the board, if you ask the student to go to the board, if you ask your pupil to go to the board, she can do it. But when she will be writing it in a piece of paper, she's having some problems. No? Plus, that could be because of some degree of error in the measurement brought about by internal and external conditions. And what are these internal and external conditions? When you pertain to internal conditions, this could pertain to the condition of your student. Okay, the personal condition of your student. And plus, when we talk about the external condition, it talks about the environment. Okay, the environment of your student. Okay? Point for example, you know, I've heard stories of people who are very intelligent, but during the board exam, they were not able to make it. And when they were asked, no, what happened? No, why were you not able to make it? Some of them would say, nag-blackout lang. During the board exam, blackout. When I reach item number 30, nag-blackout ako, sir. Hindi ko na alam kung anong gagawin. There are instances like that. And you would encounter, for example, students who are very vigilant with their studies, but here comes class the examinations, and then they would have heavy flow, and then menstrual cramps that they could not tolerate. Wala, sira na yung mood nila for that examination. So those are some of the personal factors. And then other than that, class, the perception also. Perception. I had a student, for example, once that when she will be taking the exam in public, she has anxiety. Okay? So for example, pag nasa isang room sila, no, lahat silang magkaklase, ang tendency class is that she feels anxious. It was only later on that I found out that that student actually has social anxiety or social phobia. Okay, you will handle that, you will learn of that in your psych. Pero there are instances like that because they perceive the surroundings to be, hala, nakakatakot or nakakasuffocating. Okay, for them, it's suffocating. Those are personal factors. Now look at the environment also. One example, maybe still the board exams. I had students, for example, who took the examinations in an air-conditioned room. So anong feeling nila? Sir, napaka-komportable. Ang problema mo na lang, sir, kung paano mo sasagutin yung exam. Pero yung mga students ko naman who took the examinations dun sa mga maiinit na room, may class, ano pong ginagawa? May iba nagdala ng electric fan, may iba na puro reklamo. Kasi class, during your board examinations, if this is, for example, your answer sheet, you don't really want class pieces of your, you don't want drops of your sweat to go to that piece of answer sheet, no? Kaya kung baga class, mabasa lang lahat, madumihan lang lahat, huwag yung answer sheet mo sa board examinations because some of the pag-scan, baka mamaya magka-error or whatever, no? So, that simply reminds us that the environment has something to do also with the performance of the students. And if we will capture the concept class of classical test theory, it reminds us again that there are some errors in the measurement that we are using. kumbaga hindi siya perfect. For example, if I would want to know knowledge about mathematics, or let's say knowledge about factoring. Halimbawa, sa mga math major, di ba, may factoring tayong ginagawa. Okay? Or most of you here are English major. Okay, let's say, for example, you would want to have subject-verb agreement. Okay? You would want to have subject-verb agreement. And here comes a student of you, here comes your student who got low in the examinations. Ayun pala, class, he does not understand your English. Or ayun pala, mismo yung English mo mismo, alanganin bilang English teacher. Okay? So, when there's something like that would happen, please do not right away jump into the conclusion that there is a problem with the student. Pag na-notice mo na mababa lahat ang score ng students mo, try to reread your examination. Tama nga ba yung sinulat ko dito? Tama nga ba yung mga items that I have indicated? If you feel that they are right, try to ask another colleague. So for example, I will tell you, Ivy, can you please read my exams? And Ivy, please be open to me, ha? If there are grammatical errors, you let me know. Okay? You know what? As a teacher, many a times I've experienced that I've noticed that a certain item, for example, majority of my students got wrong. Ayun pala, class, ang choices ko supposedly, except. May except supposedly. Pero class, doon sa question, hindi ko nalagay yung salitang except. So what would happen? E di bonus, wala kang magagawa kasi it's an error on your part, di ba? Or if you would want, if for example, that happened in the majority of your items, you might need to re-administer the examinations that you have. Okay? So hindi yan porket kasalanan lahat ng estudyante natin. Then, by the way, since I've mentioned that line, I hope that you as educators do not always put the blame to your students. Okay? I understand we are stressed, especially during the time of the pandemic. Ito kasing kadalasan kong naririnig. Kaya kadalasan sinasabi ng mga educators, alam mo yan kasi hindi nag-aaral. Alam mo yan kasi ang tamad. Have you heard that? Have you heard lines like that, diba? I understand, class, no? Please understand them also that that's because of the stress that they have. But please be also aware that as an educator, we do not blame our students. And, sir, paano we blame ourselves? Hindi naman. Hindi ko na sinasabi na you blame yourselves, but please try to be proactive in the learning process of your students. Right? Now, if you would look at the classical test theory class, it assumes that all measures are said to be imperfect, and scores obtained, from a measure could differ from the true score or true ability of the examinee. Right? All measures now are imperfect. Since that's the case, what do you think will be our conclusion from this? Sabi niya kasi lahat ng measures imperfect. So what would we do as a teacher? Because all of the measures are imperfect according to your classical test theory. Sige nga, any insights? Di ba guys, sabi niya all measures are imperfect. So, sir, bakit pa tayo magme-measure? Wag na lang tayo mag-exam, di ba? Okay? So what would be our remedy as teachers since all of the measures are imperfect, my dear students? Future educators, ano yung gagawin natin kasi imperfect siya? Anybody? Sige, yes, Lazel, go ahead.
For me, sir, I believe in the theory of multiple intelligences of the learners. So, for example, the student A is she is excel when it comes to the examination test, and the student B when it comes to practicum or doing physical activities, that is the area where she excels. So therefore, as future educators, we should consider what are the strategies or techniques in order to identify or determine the true ability of the student, sir.
Okay, sige. I think you captured it, no? She mentioned plus strategies and techniques, no? We should identify the strategies and techniques. Sige, Melissa, I would want to hear your thoughts.
The previous concept that we have learned from our last discussion, which was about implementing many or various assessments within a semester and not just doing one for the whole class, I think could help the situation, sir, because in doing activities, different activities, which captures also the multiple intelligences that has been mentioned by Laisel, I think that will measure the consistency of the scores of the students, and we can base our evaluation results from their consistency rather than just in one result of an exam, sir.
Okay, that's a very good insight. No? That's in fact what I'm looking for. So earlier, Laisel has mentioned strategies, and Melissa has strengthened it. And yes, true to the words that I had last discussion, we could not use only one assessment. No? We need to use several measures for us to determine whether our student is performing well in our classroom or not. Right? Because class, as it says here, all measures are imperfect. And to reduce that imperfection, class, future educators, to reduce that imperfection, we need to use several tools. We need to use several tools. And again, as mentioned by Melissa, it's to check the consistency of our students. Now, this is actually the challenge that we have in online education. Okay, this is actually the challenge that we have in online education. How can we know that indeed our students are learning? Okay, so that's why, for example, you can see that we are not only inclined on giving quizzes. Okay, we are not only inclined on giving activities, but it should be a combination of quizzes and activities so that we will have different kinds of assessment to know that you are learning. Okay, so wag niyong sabihin na ay ang rami ng requirement kasi siguro online class. No, that's another fallacy. Ano, kung na-notice nyo, nangyari kasi ng online class, nagparamihan naman ng requirement. So that's another fallacy that happened. So when I say fallacy, you're not supposed to do it. Okay, now, in CTT class, your item difficulty could be determined based on the frequency or number of examinees who correctly answered a particular item. So if you know that in a certain item, only 5 out of 50 got the answer correct, meaning that item is very difficult. Whereas class, if 45 out of 50 got the item correctly, meaning that item is easy. So that's based on CTT. And then class, you also have item discrimination. Plus, your item discrimination is provided based on the number of examinees with higher or lower ability to answer a particular item. If an item class is able to distinguish between examinees with higher ability and lower ability, the item is considered to have good discrimination. Class, when we are dealing with items in the examination, we have what we refer to as your discrimination index. Okay, class, you have what we refer to as your discrimination index. Now, what is the purpose of discrimination index? My dear students, your discrimination index is actually used for item analysis. Okay, kindly write it on the side that when we say class discrimination index, it is used class to analyze. No? It is used class to analyze item analysis. It's conducted for item analysis. Now, plus for your discrimination index, there are actually different values. I'm trying to retrieve the values here based on a reference. So, plus, we will touch base on this in the around finals, but we need to, as of now, since we mentioned this, when we talk about discrimination index class, if the discrimination index is below 0.1, plus you need to interpret as a poor or questionable item. In other words, I need to replace the item. I need to revise the item. 0.10 plus to 0.19. If it's 0.10 to 0.19, it's considered to be marginal. If it is 0.20 to 0.29, sorry, let me write that properly. That would be moderately discriminating. And then you have your 0.30 to 0.39 that's considered to be discriminating. And then plus you have your 0.40 and above, that would be very discriminating or a very good item. Okay, very discriminating or very good item. Okay. By the way, we are using the word discrimination. Please do not think that it's because discrimination, it's bad. In this case, students, we would want, future educators, we would want discrimination in this case. Okay, we want discrimination in this case. So what does it mean? No? If I will be conducting an exam, okay, for example, earlier, we had a 25-item exam. Okay, we have a 25-item exam. So class, once I will pull out the analysis from the learning management system, yes, your Canvas is capable of computing for the discrimination index. For example, if I found out, class, that the discrimination index of item number 1 is 0.37, meaning that question is a good question. Why is it a good question? It's able to identify if who knows the topic and who does not know the topic. So class, statistically, ang ginagawa po kasi niyan, each item class, it's being statistically tested with the entire score of the student. Okay, with the entire score of the student. Kung baga, it tells you whether this item can predict whether you will get high score or low score in the total of quiz. No? O halimbawa, question number 2. Pagkakita ko ng question number 2, the discrimination index is 0.10. Ibig sabihin, class, regardless kapag correct ka dyan, regardless kapag wrong ka dyan, correct or wrong ka man, it does not tell me whether you understood the topic or not because the discrimination index is poor. Now, if I will go to item number 3 and then the discrimination index is 0.29, it says you're moderately discriminating. So meaning, class, somehow it can predict, no? Halimbawa, kapag si Aliyah, correct siya sa item number 3, I can say na siguro understood ni Aliyah yung topic. Or baka hindi niya rin understood kasi moderately discriminating siya. Pero for example, if the discrimination index of question number 4 is 0.42, if Mary Lou got correct and point in item number 4, I know that Mary Lou understood our introductory topic. Okay? If Juan, for example, got wrong in item number 4, I know that Juan does not understand our topic. That's what we mean by discrimination index. So sir, anong gagawin nyo? Kapag yung discrimination index ng isang item mababa, ano pong gagawin natin? Ibubonus na lang ba natin? Hindi po. As teachers, hindi po tayo inclined bamigay ng bonus, ha? So dapat yung bonus nyo may justification yan. So ano pong gagawin natin? Class, the next time that you will give an examination, you need to revise that examination. You need to revise that examination. Sir, do we recycle exams ba? Kasi sabi mo, i-revise yan. Class, as a teacher, as an educator, it's wise for us to build on test banks. Okay? We are building on test banks. Ibig sabihin, first year mo ngayong magturo. Diba? Gagawa ka ng mga exams at saka assessment. Pagka next year, class, pag magturo ka, do not just copy the exams that you had last year. Add more items, and then class, itago mo na yung ibang items para may test bank ka. Okay? That would help you, class, later on if you are progressing towards your career. Pagkatapos, class, when we talk about test reliability naman, class, may tinatawag naman tayong test reliability. In statistics, we use two terms, no? We commonly use these two. So you have your KR20. Your KR20 stands for Kuder-Richardson 20. And then we also have your Cronbach's alpha. Okay? We commonly even use Cronbach alpha in research. So class, this is the test for reliability. When we say class reliability, as I would like to repeat, it refers to the consistency of the questionnaire. So ano pong ibig sabihin ng consistency ng questionnaire? Okay? Ganito lang yan, class. If consistent ang questionnaire mo, for example, I will say, I am happy. And then I said there, 5. Pagkatapos, class, I am delighted. I answer, for example, 5. Strongly agree. Pagkatapos, class, I am sad. Sinagot ko ulit 5. Pag magkaganon ba, class, reliable siya? Hindi. Okay? Because class, it does not consistently demonstrate, no, that I am happy. Okay? So what are the two areas here that could possibly happen? Baka hindi po nagbabasa yung sumasagot ng questionnaire mo, or baka po yung question natin, mali po talaga yung pagkakastate. So in your Cronbach alpha class will analyze all of these responses. So i-analyze yan ni Cronbach alpha. Consistent ka nga bang matalino? Or consistent ka nga bang bobo? Sorry for the term. Consistent ka nga bang hindi mo alam yung topic? Okay? So class, as teachers, by the way, please do away with the term bobo, ha? I don't want an educator saying, ay, ang bobo-bobo, ay, ang mango, ay, you are an idiot. Please do not use those terms. Ha? They hurt. They really hurt your students. Anyway, so class Cronbach Alpha will check whether your responses are consistent. If they are consistent, it is giving you a message that if item number 1 is measuring happiness, item number 2 is also measuring happiness. Also as item number 3, item number 4, hanggang item number 10. Puro siya about happiness. Pero, for example, if your questionnaire class is inconsistent or if your questionnaire is unreliable, okay, your Cronbach Alpha will be able to give you results, no? Class, may cutoff si Cronbach Alpha. For standard testing, our cutoff is 0.7. The result for Cronbach Alpha ranges from 0 to 1.0. The cutoff class for standard testing is 0.7. Ano pong ibig sabihin ko ng cutoff for standard testing? If the Cronbach Alpha score is 0.7, meaning class you can administer the questionnaire. If the Cronbach Alpha score is below 0.7, that would mean class it's unreliable. If you are using a software in statistics, ano nga ba yung software na ginagamit natin commonly sa statistics? Can anybody tell me what software is that? Yes? Yes, anybody? What software is that? 4 letters lang yung acronym na yan. Napaka-common na ginagamit natin sa statistical test. What is that software? In moment of silence, let us pray kung ano yung software na yun. Ay, ano yung software, guys? I think you've encountered this software while you were in your senior high, no? Or when you're doing statistical analysis. So, plus it's your SPSS. Huh? I'm actually waiting for you to respond SPSS, no? Your statistical package for social sciences. So, class, if ever the result is less than 0.7, ano pong gagawin natin, no? Yes, IBM. Thank you very much, Paul. SPSS is actually already being authored by IBM. Okay? Sige. Now, plus if it's less than 0.7, meron po si Cronbach Alpha na result na sinasabi, Cronbach Alpha if item deleted. Nakalagay po yan, if item deleted. Anong ibig sabihin? So ilalagay niya dyan, no? For example, your Cronbach Alpha score is, let's say for example, it's 0.62. So sabi ko, hindi siya pwede for standard testing. So ano pong gagawin natin? Titingnan po natin itong table. Cronbach Alpha if item deleted. So class nakalagay dyan, if you will delete item number 1, the Cronbach Alpha score will be 0.57. If you will delete item number 2, the Cronbach Alpha score will be 0.69. If you will delete item number 3, the Cronbach Alpha score will be 58. If you will delete item number 4, halimbawa, the Cronbach Alpha score would become, okay, where's my pen? The Cronbach Alpha score would become 0.64. Halimbawa, class, yan lang yung na-present in front of you. 4. Pagtatanungin ko kayo, anong item yung i-delete ko una? Anong item ang una kong i-delete para tataas yung Cronbach Alpha score ko? Anybody? Sige na, will it be item number 2? Okay, so class, you will be deleting item number 2. Okay? Because class, once you delete item number 2, tataas ka agad yung Cronbach Alpha mo to 0.69. That gives you a signal that there's something wrong with item number 2. Okay? Sir, delete ka agad kasi sabi ni SPSS, Cronbach Alpha if item deleted. Sige, i-delete. Okay? Hindi ganon, ha? Hindi ganon. So what would you do as an educator? Revisit item number 2. Read it again. Kung ikaw mismo na iintindihan mo. Funny as it is sometimes, no? Ikaw na teacher mismo. Baka ikaw na teacher mismo, hindi mo masagot yung exam mo. Okay? So read. Pag hindi mo naintindihan, what would you do? Revise. And then conduct another reliability testing later on. Okay, that's how reliability testing works, no? So it's actually a beautiful tool and in SPSS. So in CPP, okay, your item analysis is considered simple. We are only looking at the item difficulty index. So item difficulty index, sabi ko sa inyo kanina kung ilan yung nag-correct, ilan yung wrong. Item discrimination index, the one that I've given you the rating from 0.1, from 0 to 0.4 and above. And then plus your item total discrimination. Pag sinabi natin plus item total discrimination, question number 1, correct. What's the total score of the student? Okay. Question number 2 is wrong. What's the total score of the student? So it just correlates the items, whether they jive with one another or not. Okay. Plus the next theory is your item response theory. I will be discussing this on the next discussion.